Kari Lake's team slaps back at Jeff DeWitt's false claims he was blackmailed into resigning over bribery tape and says resigned Arizona Republican Party chair should apologize for his unethical behavior. So, whoa, we got to slow down here. Jeff DeWitt is the guy who was caught on camera. And we've called it bribery of Kari Lake. I actually think it's blackmail. I think blackmail is a better term. Is there an amount of money? I don't think he's trying to bribe her when they both explicitly are bringing up that when she says they're going to have me murdered. Kari Lake says that in the recording. And he's like, well, if it's true about the report with the cartels operating in all 50 states, that doesn't sound like bribery. That sounds like a guy came in and said, be a shame if one of these cartels people got you. Why don't you take a job and just don't bother the people back east? That sounds like blackmail. Call it bribery, whatever. Well, the latest news is that this guy resigned. He's claiming that the audio has been altered in some way, and Kari Lake's team came to him and said, more audio will be released unless you resign. Now, Kari Lake's team is disputing this, but I got to tell you, when you listen to the audio, my guy, ain't nobody made you become a scumbag who's going to go to Kari Lake and offer her cash to drop out of politics.
I was wondering, is he getting a cut? Is that why he was doing that?
I was going to say, he's a little fish. Who is the big guy that's paying him to talk to Kari Lake and say, hey, we don't want you to run in the Senate race for the next 2 years, lay down? Because there's no way out of his own brain. He said the people back east. Who's the people back east that are funding this corruption, not just in the state of Arizona, but there's more people that are being bribed or blackmailed into
Who is they,
not
though?
running. Exactly.
Who is they? They were. They didn't say numbers. Kari was like, "What, $1 billion? That's not. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, it can't be bought." Did you guys play this video last night? Any of it?
Portions of it.
This is crazy.
It's 10 minutes long,
and it is edited.
I mean, the shocking thing is, she says, what, 1 million, 2 million? It's not worth it. And I'm thinking, like, I know, because the number's probably around 10 million. I'm gone. I'll be out the door. No, I'm just kidding. But the question is, they don't bring up in the video who they is.
Right.
They say they are saying this. They said it's powerful people back east. So I have to assume it's deep state. It's intelligence assets. It's leaders of industry. It's people likely in D.C.
Well, even Kari brought this up in the video, is like, it's because they're anti-Trump. And the people back east, they're going to put their money where their mouth is. I definitely think it's the deep state, because they're going to do anything to get the people that are backing Trump. And I mean, Kari Lake is one of the biggest people in the country who is backing Trump and who has been unapologetically on that train. So I think it all goes back to this upcoming election, not even her Senate race.
The term deep state in this context, I mean, when I think of the deep state, I'm specific in thinking about like bureaucracy, something of actual government agencies. So you're whether it be the EPA or it be DEA or whatever it is, Justice Department, whatever. I'm thinking of some kind of government agency. I don't know where they're going to come up with money to bribe her out of an actual government agency. I think that it's more likely that it would be like someone that sends money to PACs, like a wealthy investor or something like that, than actually, an actual person in the government. So when you say deep state, I think of actual bureaucracy, someone that's actually in the government, as opposed to...
Which of these high-level donors also murder people? That's why deep state fits better. Powerful interests, special interests, massive coffers, and the means and will to assassinate.
Well, the assassination, when they were like, I don't think they're going to do that, and the guy, what's his name, McAdams, the guy's
Jeff DeWitt
was like, yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. They're
wait,
implying that the people
what? What do you mean?
Assassinate Kari Lake.
No, he didn't say that. He said they would.
No, in the very beginning, they talked about it, and then there was a cartel thing. But then about 6 minutes in, they talk about the people back east doing it, and they're both like, no, I don't think they would do that.
Except at the end of the video,
they're more money guys.
At the end of the video, he says, paraphrasing, if I go public, I will put my key in my car and it'll explode.
Yeah, he did say that.
She says they're going to have me murdered, and he said, well, if it's true about the cartel operating in all 50 states, then at the end, she says, go public. He goes, no. Then I turn my key in my car and...
Well, if he said cartel, is he talking about drug cartels, or was he using the phrase more ambiguously?
I think he's talking about the drug cartels.
Yeah, they said that in the very beginning, it was out of context. You missed what they were talking about, but they said the cartel is operating in all 50 states or something like that. And it just assumes that he's talking about the Mexican drug cartels.
With this video being released, like, I'm at the point now where anybody can come to me with any conspiracy theory, and I'm gonna be like, well, I believe you over the government or the press. Like all the stuff they kept saying was a lie. Remember when Epstein was a conspiracy theory? Yeah. And then Amy Robach over at ABC has that video leaked where she's like, I had it. Mike Cernovich files this paperwork with Mark Randazza. Miami, I think is what the Miami Herald was that, or who was it? Was Miami Herald who got involved, or was it Times? I'm not sure. It might have been the Herald. I'm not sure. You want to fact check?
Yeah.
But more journalists get involved. We get these documents released, and then this forces the hand for them to go after Epstein. And all of a sudden, it wasn't a conspiracy theory anymore. Alex Jones was not crazy. It was just, well, of course. Then Epstein dies while in jail, with the cameras failing and the guards falling asleep.
I think it was Julie K. Brown with the Miami Herald.
Yeah, the Herald. Okay.
That's what I've come to see is like all this dirty, dark potential is like, I used to just kind of wash it out and be like, no, that's video game stuff. That's movie villain stuff. That's not real stuff. And now like, oh, if it can be done, there's a likelihood that it is being done.
Bro, I used to think very much the same way, that life is much more boring than people realize. And I still think that's true to a degree, but holy crap. Kari Lake published audio of a guy saying people back east want to pay you money to drop out of the race.
Yeah.
Oh, not to
Kari
drop out,
says,
just to pause her campaign.
Pause for, well, yeah, that's a drop out.
Just
of
pause
years.
for a couple of years. Oh, yeah, pause all
and
government
that his
activity
car
for
will
2 years.
explode if he goes public.
Is there anyone else that's running against her, or who is running against her that's on the conservative side?
Let's find out.
I don't know.
Does she have someone that she's... Because I imagine if they want her to drop out, they would want her to drop out or to pause her campaign because they have someone that they would prefer to be in the position. If it were a conservative, or if it were someone...
I think at this point, all the Republicans should drop out of the primary.
Oh, they're at
August
the
6th,
Arizona pair?
2024. Yeah, it's the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. So you've Christopher Berschauer unofficially withdrew. Leonard Fulcher, Kari Lake, Mark Lamb, Connie Moreno, Elizabeth Ray, Robert Walker, Ellen White, Brian Wright. I think they should all drop out.
I like Mark Lamb.
You what?
I like Mark Lamb.
I think they should all drop out.
All of them but Kari?
Yep.
Yeah.
Kari is massively popular. She's nationally popular. And the concern now is, look, I'll put it this way. I don't live in Arizona. Take it with a grain of salt. You don't got to take my advice. Any one of these people, I'm not going to get mad at them if they don't drop out. But my view is I don't trust anyone who stays in. The chair of the Republican Party, you know he's in communication with these people who are running. Did he go to any of these other candidates and offer them a bribe to drop out?
Definitely not.
I would assume no.
Yeah.
It's Kari Lake. She's MAGA. She's Trump. They want Trump to lose. And you know that pause does not mean pause. She drops out for 2 years. She's gone.
Oh, yeah. And then they'd expose that they bribed her after the fact, and then she'd tarnish her name with that.
Absolutely. They'd publish the bribe and say, look, Kari Lake took money to drop out. She's been corrupt the whole time. Now I look at these other people who are running, and I'm like, which one of them is in cahoots with DeWitt? Because DeWitt's going to Kari Lake saying, drop out. The inverse is happening. He's going to one of these guys and being like, how much can we give you?
That does suck that these people would even be remotely implicated, because a lot of these people are probably just honestly trying to run, and then they got all this malfeasance at the top.
Yep.
And then they're part of this dirty system. But hey, that's politics. That's politics, man. And we're in the United States, which is apparently the least worst, but it's probably not the least worst because the power that you can gain if you get control of that system.
It's all back scratching. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's what even Kari was talking about. Like she's the only one that will say no, because there are too many politicians, whether it's federal government or state governments, that are being paid off actively by whether it's the GOP, by Democrats, by deep state. There are too many people, corrupt people in our government systems.
And they're being paid on. They're just being paid by super PACs or by donors to get in there, which is technically a legal thing. So you wouldn't even call it them being paid off, but it's like, then they're beholden to their money. Oh, it's just.
So have you guys bought any emergency food? Dude, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Listen, we knew 2024 was going to be wild. It's 2023. We're like, it's going to get crazy. Yeah. It's the first month in, and there are armed National Guardsmen and the governor of Texas declaring supremacy over the border, with the federal government trying to open the border. And we have, again, still the first month in, Kari Lake releasing audio of an attempt to bribe her, nay, blackmail her into dropping out with the fear of death on the line from a guy who fears they will kill him if this information goes public. Oh, wow. I didn't know it was going to kick off this quick. I was like, maybe by the time springtime's coming around, things are getting warmer. We're going to get crazy riots and there's going to be weird stories about, P-tapes or something. Man, March 5th is going to be a crazy day.
It was Trump getting in and being like, everyone, there's a deep state. Look under the covers. This is what it looks like. And everyone lost their shit. But then it's having Biden in office, which is so bad. Like, it's not that I hate the guy. It's that he's mentally incompetent, that he's aged so rapidly in the last 4 years. And the vacancy is why a lot of this junk is transpiring.
Okay.
I don't think that matters.
So,
I mean, Obama wouldn't be so stupidly challenging Texas's authority in Texas. Like, that's a maniacal.
Do you think Biden's really up to it, though? Because I think there's other people behind the scenes they're the ones that are telling, hey, Abbott, you guys, we're going to come and seize your National Guard and we're going to open up the border and you guys are then going to have to pay for the buses and the flights. I mean, I'm in Sky Harbor just in Phoenix every single week. And I see dozens, if not hundreds of illegal immigrants getting on airplanes every single day. I talk to the TSA agents all the time, and it's not stopping, whether it's Texas or Arizona.
I'll tell you what scares me the most. It's not actually the border. It's not Biden and his bumbling speech. What scares me the most is that when Biden says, shout of pressure, the crowd goes, yay!
Oh, man.
Luke posted this, Luke Rukowski. Biden goes, because when you mess with Yaga Rinamer, you can't. And the crowd goes, wow, screaming, cheering. I'm like, this man,
the emperor has no clothes.
This
that
man
book was written about that.
Quite literally said no words.
And
the crowd was cheering in uproar.
Do you remember that?
This is I'm sorry, listen. This is a crowd where look, people talk about the fervor of Nazis and how they screamed and cheered for Hitler. Hitler was speaking to them.
Yeah, at least he was saying words.
What he was saying things.
And they were terrible, but
they're terrible things. But the thing is, the opposition could discern their plans. Right. Joe Biden stands up and goes, and then hands everybody a club and they go, woo, and then they start marching around and you're like, what are they doing?
Everyone in the back looks like a deranged
things.
Feminist, millennial white woman who's just so unhappy with their lives.
I have to assume it's all like AI generated video.
It's this, there's a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes where, and I have never read the book, but I know the premise is that the emperor, they'd come out and I don't know if it's China or whatever, they'd march around and the emperor would be naked. But they'd be like, look at the beautiful outfit that the emperor has on. Isn't it beautiful, everyone? Look, the emperor is wearing a beautiful outfit. Isn't it beautiful? And everyone would be like, yes, beautiful outfit. And then eventually one little kid was like, the emperor's not wearing any clothes. And everyone's like, oh. And it's this moment of cognitive dissonance where like youthful innocence overrides this corrupt, I don't know what you would call it, stupidity or.
Can you show your parents the video of him, the recent one where he goes, and the crowd starts cheering?
Yeah, I got to find it.
And but don't show them any commentary on it. Just play the video for them, ask them what they think. And then whatever they end up saying, ask them again, why do you think the crowd is cheering despite not knowing what Biden said?
Yeah, they're cheering for the regime. That's the terrifying part.
They're cheering. That shows you Biden could literally call for the extermination of a group of people and they would cheer for it.
They got an interesting perspective, some of these older people, because they saw Biden in the 80s, 90s, 2000s.
70s, man.
Yeah, they still see like his youth in him when they look at him. I just see what I see, which is straightforward. I mean, I got introduced to the guy in 2008, thought he was a scumbag. I don't know why Obama picked him. Probably he was chosen for Obama because they needed some dark money in there.
White old man. They need a white old man.
But when I look at him now, I look at like a vacant, pale, thin, wispy ancient, and it's not in a good way. Like I see this dilapidated nonsense, but I think a lot of people still see the Joe from 2006, that old smile and a wink. Gonna write that crime bill and plagiarize my presidential campaign. Like, I don't know how that got swept under the rug that he's a plagiarist too.
It's the worst thing.
Like,
Ever.
he had to drop out of his
1988. He dropped out of the presidential campaign because he got caught plagiarizing his campaign.
It's happened numerous times.
Dirty.
Let me just stress this again for you guys right now, though. The border stuff is scary. The people back east, man, that's a quote we got to keep. The people back east, that's a scary quote. Who are they? Yeah. The fact that large crowds will cheer for Biden with Biden not saying words is much more terrifying, because this means these people could be handed weapons and they'll just scream and cheer for anything. Biden could say something abhorrent and they would scream and cheer for it. At least when Donald Trump says lock her up, people chant back, lock her up. With Joe Biden, he goes, and they're like, yay.
I did get a horrible vision of the president ordering people to turn on American citizens, like whoever, an out group of some sort, whether you call it the Nazis, the
MAGA
commies, the
Republicans?
MAGA Republicans, the
Maybe.
black people,
I mean,
the
He
white
calls it-
people.
he's-
You pick a group and
he's doing that already.
Done that.
And then, but in my mind, I visualize people cheering it on, being like,
They
yeah,
are.
They
this is-
are.
That's literally happening.
That's Nazi Germany. Like
That's happening now, bro.
Well-
It's been happening for like a year longer.
It literally
maybe that's
happened
why-
when Hillary Clinton said the basket of deplorables. People cheered for that.
but worse than that, they've been calling Trump supporters maggots
yeah.
for years now. And Joe Biden says his first campaign commercial was, "They are your enemy and must be stopped."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see the cheering like for the rhetoric, but I was visualizing like a guy on the street getting clubbed and other people getting on the news and people being like, "Yeah, get it," and like, don't let the country come to that. Don't become that guy.
Bro, that's like TV in 2020. I was seeing all that happening already. I
Yeah.
feel like
All
it's been going on.
All the stuff that
you're
you're worried about possibly happening in the future has happened in the past. Happened in 2020. People were getting beat.
It happened in Nazi Germany. We should take a message. We should take a learning lesson
Yeah,
from
like
that.
all the aggressive black people in the
And the
been
leader
people
goes, "Those are your
literally saying
enemies?"
that exact same thing
Yeah.
since like 2015
Yeah.
when Milo was getting punched in the face. That like you can't sit there and just say, "Oh, punch a Nazi, it's okay. We
Well-
need to calm these things down." All of that was the start
Here's one
of what
for
we're
you.
seeing now. That was almost 10 years ago.
And then you have Chris Ray-Gun, who made a song, Punch a
yeah.
Nazi, which was a satirical version of Paparazzi by Lady Gaga, pointing out how these people are going around saying that encourage people to engage in violence against anyone they disagree with. And the threats of violence were so extreme, Chris Ray-Gun took the video down a couple years later and then totally just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yep.
I think he still does videos of some sort, but man, did he ran in panic.
He got rid of it. Yeah, but I
got
mean,
rid of it. That's crazy.
This is not something that's coming in the future. This is not like the government being against a group of Americans. The IRS was used to target Americans in like 2012, 12 years ago. This is not someday this is coming. This is happening right now.
But-
I know that it's Donald Trump, but like they're fabricating and doing everything they can to circumvent due process to just slap this guy with punishments.
I feel like there is some scapegoating happening from the top rhetorically, but people are strong mentally to not fall for it. I just want to encourage people to continue to not fall for it and don't scapegoat other groups of people.
They have not fallen for it. They have fallen hook, line, and sinker for
I know
it.
people that have not fallen for it that I would have thought have.
There are some people that have not, of course, but I think that the reason that we talk about things like people kind of realize that things are bad when they saw like what their kids were seeing in schools during COVID, or when they saw the way that the government was behaving during COVID. All of that stuff there were people warning about that stuff for at least a decade prior. At least 10 years before all of that stuff happened, there were people saying, "Hey, this is happening, this is happening." Some people were saying it 20 years earlier. Like Alex Jones, as much as people hate to admit it, like Alex Jones was predicting some of the crazy
Remember when he
shit.
predicted 9/11?
Yeah, he was predicting 20 years ago.
Yuri
Like in
Bezmenov.
July of 2001, Alex Jones there's like a famous recording of Jones. You can watch it where he's like, "They're going to be targeted in the World Trade Centers and other places with terror attacks," and then he talks for a little bit, and then he mentions Osama bin Laden will be the main scapegoat. They've used him before, blah blah blah, and it's just like you can watch his videos.
It was like
Talks
in
about
May of 2001. He was talking
That's
about
crazy.
it 5 or 6 months before.
The stuff is not coming. The stuff is here, and it's just that Americans have not noticed because it is not. They have not targeted enough Americans that to the point where the left leaning kind of bad liberals, Democrats that should be more liberal than they are, until those people start seeing it, until their friends start paying for it, until the laptop class starts paying for it, there will be no changes.
That's why they're moving these illegal immigrants to these cities is crude as it is, I think is the most effective eye-opening.
Because it forces you to look at it. It forces you to be beholden to it. It's like what Phil was saying about the laptop class. It's like if your daily life is so comfortable using one of these guys, and you have dopamine feed from your TV, etc., whatever you're watching on TV, and you're comfortable, like Phil always mentions, like people that are in a comfortable situation don't revolt because they're just like their everyday life is so cushy. There's no reason. There's like, well, what's so bad about this happening? It doesn't affect me. So like you're like you said, it's crude, but it's the only way to make people experience it. Otherwise, they're not gonna it's never going to be a thing in their life ever.
It has to be.
That is Gen Z in a nutshell, though,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
every single Gen Zer on a college campus, first of all, they go to an indoctrination camp. They're learning everything that the establishment
yes.
wants them to learn. And then they go on their phones for the rest of the day, and they're just sucked in and living this mundane life doing absolutely nothing.
Just parroting it.
And they're just rotting. Like,
Yeah.
literally, Gen Z's brains are rotting, especially in college campuses. And nothing is going to solve it until we continue to press and make people wake up. I mean, the whole Biden gaffe thing that happened was at his Restore Roe rally, where you see just dozens of these millennial Gen Z women that are chanting for pro-choice and, therefore legal genocide of, babies being aborted in our country, which is absurd. But those are the kind of issues that these women are grasping onto and supporting Biden for. And same thing with the technology. I think they're pro-transhumanism. Gen Z is trending in the direction of the more crazy, the better. I mean, I talk to kids all the time that have read the Communist Manifesto, and they endorse Karl Marx, and they love socialism, like on college campuses. I mean, I've had fascists yell fascist in my face, and it happens on every single campus across the country, and I think it's only getting worse until we continue. I mean, I know Turning Points, we're actually out there talking to kids, but we're going to need more of it because these kids need to reverse the brainwashing that they've been going through for years.
Yeah. It's like you want to wake people up to horror without putting them through horror.
Right.
The horror of like scapegoating, your government scapegoating a class of person. That we have it on camera, Hitler doing that to the Jews and the gypsies, but particularly the Jews. So we have evidence like don't ever do that ever again. But how do you get people to realize that the MAGA Republican thing is a scapegoat attempt to get them to wake up to like don't ever do that again?
How do you make them do it again? You just say like, oh well, you blame the people for doing exactly what you're doing.
Here's the challenge I see. There are very powerful people who are involved with Epstein level stuff, and it's periphery, who don't want to be exposed, and I think it's probably bigger than people realize. So, I think it was Bill Maher who was doing his Club Random. Is that the name of his show?
Yeah.
And he said Jimmy Kimmel is the last person who would be on this list. It's laughable. He's a regular guy. Oh, Jimmy Kimmel's such a nice guy. Why was Bill Maher lying? Why would Bill Maher lie? Was Bill Maher on the list? Is Bill Maher on the apps? Is it related to this? Is he involved in this stuff? Big Hollywood guy. Bill Maher's been single for a long time. Jimmy Kimmel is friends with Epstein's personal chef, and they've reportedly been in business together in varying capacities. So why would Jimmy Kimmel's name appear on the list or in lists related to those in the circle of Epstein? Because he was in cahoots with Epstein's chef. That's 1 degree of separation. We're not talking about Kevin Bacon. We're talking about my friend literally works for the guy. We hang out all the time. He's got a restaurant I go to. When you get people like Bill Maher who are trying to cover up and trying to downplay the severity of what's going on, it makes me feel like the sphere of corruption related to intelligence assets, Epstein, etc., the deep state, is much wider than people realize. And if it's not the case that Bill Maher has something to hide, he's so stupid. He is pushing people in the wrong direction, causing damage. And so what I see from this is, how do we convince the people the MAGA Republican thing is a big lie? It's tough because the MAGA Republican thing, this is the principal faction calling out those who are connected to Epstein and child trafficking. And Jimmy Kimmel is in that sphere of influence, but he's got powerful allies, assets, resources, and money that will use the media to lie to people because he does not want to be involved. He does not want to, he does not want people coming out being like, did you know that he was really good friends with Epstein's chef? That's bad for him. So you get powerful interests being like, what ends up happening is someone says, if I talk bad about him or bring this up, I can't go on his show. And it is not just that people are on the Epstein list. It's that there may be a guy who knows who is on the list and thinks, but if I call him out, he won't buy my product anymore. That sphere of influence is massive, absolutely massive. They're going to do everything in their power to keep that covered up in every capacity.
Maybe we can try and make some nuance on the Epstein stuff because most people that were connected with Epstein they didn't have sex with underage women. I would imagine.
Like Frank Reynolds in It's Always Sunny. He was just there for the snorkeling.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't know anything about the kid
taking
stuff.
the sites. A lot of people probably just did business with
that?
Epstein because he was a big businessman and loved to make connections, but never got to the level of going on the plane with them, or they knew somebody that knew Epstein. And if they're afraid of acknowledging the thing, then they're going to be hiding the people as well that did the nasty. So we we should maybe go ease off on some of the people that were connected to it to try and find the darkest.
Well, shout out to the It's Always Sunny team because their latest season, Frank Reynolds is like, I went to the island, and they're like, what? And he's like, I didn't know anything about it. I was there for the snorkeling. But because it's absurd. Like, how could you have gone there and not known what was going on? The island's not that big.
I bet it was like some people were having dinner while parties while I was like 6 of the dudes went into
Bro,
back
they knew.
rooms. And those are the guys they got on that clip.
Bro, the girls were on the plane.
There's no way if anybody was on a plane getting to the island, they didn't know about the child trafficking.
Yeah, for real.
No
Yeah.
way. If you just had one single meeting behind closed doors with Epstein, or you saw him at a party, cross hands, shook hands, that's one thing, like photograph with him. But if you were on the plane, I don't think there's no doubt in my mind that they knew about
Thing
this.
is, if I met Epstein and I went to a restaurant and I sat down and it was Epstein and some girl that looked like 16 and he's like, she's a model, I wouldn't question it.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at TimCast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.